In a deadly fire, my professor fiancé unhesitatingly chose to save his female student, leaving me, whose leg was pinned under heavy objects. In the sea of fire, I thought it was love, but it turned out that I was just his optimal solution after weighing the pros and cons. But what was burned by the raging flames was not only my skin, but also his hypocritical mask, and my stupidity of not recognizing people clearly. Ava, try this. Ethan specially peeled it for you. My future mother-in-law, Mrs. Hayes, pushed a plate of peeled shrimp in front of me, her smile kind, but her eyes with scrutiny. I looked at the crystal-clear shrimp on the plate, and my stomach churned. Across the table, my fiancé, university professor Ethan Hayes, was whispering something to his female student, Chloe Vance, with a doting smile in the corner of his mouth that I had never seen before. Chloe blushed slightly, picked up a shrimp and put it in her mouth, her eyebrows and eyes full of sweetness. And that plate of shrimp specially peeled for me was obviously something Ethan did casually, or rather, a performance for Mrs. Hayes. After all, he had just personally peeled a whole plate for Chloe. This dinner was specially arranged by Ethan to celebrate his promotion to associate professor. He invited a few of his favorite students, as well as me and his mother. He called it a way for everyone to get to know the teacher's wife, but in reality, I felt like an unnecessary exhibit, left on the sidelines, watching him and Chloe put on a show of deep teacher-student affection. Ethan really takes good care of Chloe. He is such a good teacher. I picked up a shrimp and said in a flat tone, glancing at Ethan and catching the fleeting stiffness in his eyes. Mrs. Hayes' smile faded a little, and her eyes showed a bit more scrutiny as she looked at Chloe. Yes, Ethan has always been dedicated to his students, but Chloe, you also need to be mindful of boundaries and not trouble your teacher too much. Chloe immediately put down her chopsticks and waved her hands nervously. No, Professor Hayes has been a great help to me. Mom, what are you saying? Ethan interrupted her, his tone carrying a hint of subtle protectiveness. Chloe is very talented. It's only right that I give her some guidance. He turned to me, trying to explain. Ava, don't overthink it. I'm the same with all my outstanding students. Really? I raised my eyebrows, not continuing the topic. My brain was like a high-speed computer, rapidly processing the data I had collected. Ethan, my fiancé, a graduate of a prestigious university, a promising young college professor, and from a wealthy family. We met in college. He was a prominent senior, and I was a freshman. He took the initiative to pursue me, gentle and considerate, mature and stable. Everyone said we were a match made in heaven. I admit, I'm not head over heels in love with him. After a heartbreaking first love that ended without a trace, I became more realistic in my consideration of love. Ethan's appearance met all the parameters I had for a future partner: a stable career, a good family background, a gentle personality, and most importantly, he appeared to love me very much. We were like two logically rigorous programs, methodically running through the process of getting engaged and preparing for the wedding. The program started to frequently throw errors after Chloe Vance appeared. She was Ethan's most prized student, young, beautiful, and exceptionally talented. The way she looked at Ethan was always filled with admiration and affection. Initially, I thought it was just a young girl's normal reaction to a charismatic mentor, but gradually, I noticed something was off. Ethan was working later and later, his phone was often on silent, and he seemed a bit unnatural when Chloe was mentioned. A few times, I even saw him liking Chloe's private photos on his frequently used social media, and those photos were subtly suggestive. My risk assessment system started to trigger alarms, but I kept overriding the error messages with reasons like teacher-student relationship and mentoring juniors. Until today, at this dinner party, all the abnormal data points finally connected into a clear red line: the way he looked at Chloe, his subconscious actions to protect her, his bottomless indulgence and intimacy with her. All were completely different from his usual gentle and proper treatment of me. I was like an outsider, sitting at my own engagement celebration, watching my fiancé flirting with another woman. A feeling of being excluded and fooled, like cold vines, quietly crept up my heart. I'll go to the restroom. I put down my chopsticks and got up to leave. The corridor outside the private room was very quiet, and the lighting in the high-end restaurant was soft and ambiguous. I needed some space to deal with the logical conflicts within the system. Just as I reached the corner, a suppressed panting and whispering sound entered my ears. My footsteps stopped, and my heart rate suddenly accelerated. That voice was too familiar. Ethan, not here. Someone will see us. It was Chloe's timid voice, with a hint of coy shyness that seemed to resist and welcome at the same time. What are you afraid of? There's no one here. Ethan's voice was low and hoarse, full of lust. Baby, you look so beautiful today. I held my breath and quietly peeked out half my head. In the shadows at the end of the corridor, Ethan had Chloe pinned tightly against the wall, kissing her passionately. Chloe's arms were around his neck, her body trembling slightly as she half-heartedly reciprocated. At that moment, my brain went blank, and all data processing and logical analysis instantly crashed. What I saw before me was irrefutable hard evidence. I didn't feel anger, only a deep-seated, bone-chilling coldness. Almost instinctively, I took out my phone, turned on the video recording function, and aimed it at the entangled figures. The lens was steady, and the picture was clear. Ethan's hand had already slipped inappropriately under Chloe's skirt, eliciting a suppressed gasp from her. I recorded for about 30 seconds, then silently put away my phone, turned around, and left as quietly as a ghost. When I returned to the private room, Mrs. Hayes was complaining about something, while the two main characters had not yet returned. I sat back in my seat, picked up my water glass, and took a big gulp of ice water. My hands were shaking slightly, but my heart was strangely calm. The confirmation of the betrayal didn't bring the hysteria I had anticipated. Perhaps it was because, subconsciously, I had already foreseen this outcome. My relationship with Ethan was built on suitability rather than deep love from the very beginning. He chose me, perhaps because my family background, education, and personality all met his standards for a good wife, a high-quality asset that could help him stabilize his career and adorn his image. And when Chloe, who was younger, more attractive, and more able to satisfy his vanity and desire for control, appeared, he would naturally waver. I just didn't expect him to be so blatant and so impatient. A few minutes later, Ethan and Chloe returned one after the other. Ethan's tie was a little crooked, Chloe's cheeks were flushed, and her lips were slightly swollen. Neither of them dared to look at me, and their eyes flickered. Mrs. Hayes had obviously noticed something as well, and her face was even more unsightly, but due to the occasion, she didn't explode. The following time was like chewing wax. I ate expressionlessly, listening to their fake laughter. Ethan tried to talk to me several times, but I blocked him with silence. Boom! A loud noise came without warning, and the whole restaurant shook violently. The chandelier swayed wildly, and broken glass and dust rustled down. What's going on? Explosion! It's the kitchen! Fire! Screams erupted, and thick smoke quickly spread from the kitchen. Diners panicked and rushed towards the exits, creating a chaotic scene. Let's go! Ethan reacted quickly, grabbed Chloe's hand, who was closest to him, and was about to rush out. Ethan! I shouted sharply. The vibration from the explosion caused the decorations on the ceiling to fall, and a heavy wooden plank struck my leg. A sharp pain shot through me, and I couldn't move. Ethan looked back at me, a hint of hesitation flashing in his eyes, but only for a second. He saw my pinned leg, then looked at Chloe beside me, trembling with fear and tears streaming down her face, and the approaching flames and smoke. Ava, be careful. He left these words behind, unhesitatingly grabbed Chloe, and rushed headlong into the chaotic crowd without looking back. At that moment, I clearly saw the choice in his eyes. It wasn't an instinct born of panic, but an abandonment after a calm weighing of options. In his heart, Chloe, who was young and beautiful and could bring him freshness and a desire to conquer, was clearly more worthy of being saved than me, his suitable fiancé. The flames licked at the tablecloth, and the scorching air choked me. The sharp pain in my leg and the coldness in my heart were intertwined. This is the suitable man I chose. In a moment of life and death, he abandoned me without hesitation. Utter despair, like an ice pick, pierced my last shred of hope. The smoke grew thicker and thicker, and my consciousness began to blur. In despair, I seemed to see a tall figure rushing in against the crowd, moving swiftly and with a clear goal. He rushed to me, crouched down, and tried to move the heavy object pressing on my leg. In the swirling smoke, I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could vaguely see a hideous scar on his arm. That figure. There's a strange sense of familiarity. Who is it? Hold on. A low and powerful voice rang in my ears. Then, I completely lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. My nose was filled with the smell of disinfectant. My left leg was in a thick cast, and there was a dull pain. My arms and cheeks also had a burning sensation. "You're awake? How do you feel?" A gentle female voice sounded. It was a nurse. My leg. My voice was hoarse. "You have a fractured tibia in your left leg and some burns, but nothing too serious. Don't worry, it/s been taken care of," the nurse reassured me. "You were unconscious when you were brought in. It/s wonderful that you woke up." I looked around. I was the only person in the hospital room. "Where are the people who brought me here?" I asked. "Oh, it was the firefighters. They rescued you and handed you over to the ambulance." The nurse paused, then added, "But when you were unconscious, a very tall and handsome man came to see you several times. He had a scar on his arm and looked very worried about you." "Is he your boyfriend?" "He just came to ask about you a while ago and will probably come again later." "A handsome guy with a scar on his arm?" My heart skipped a beat. "It's him. It's the person who saved me from the fire." "Where is my fiancé?" I pressed, even though I already knew the answer in my heart. The nurse paused, her expression a little strange. "Are you talking about Mr. Hayes? He just asked about the situation outside the emergency room and left with another injured girl after confirming you were not in life-threatening danger, saying he had something urgent to attend to. After that, he never showed up again." As expected, I closed my eyes, a mocking arc appearing at the corner of my mouth. "Urgent business? Probably busy comforting his frightened baby student." The man with the scar, what's his name?" I asked eagerly. "I didn't ask. And he didn't register any information." The nurse shook her head. "But he was really concerned about you. He stayed outside the emergency room until you were transferred to the ward before leaving. He came again just now, but left when he saw you weren't awake." I struggled to sit up. "Which direction did he go?" "Hey, don't move. Your leg is still injured." The nurse quickly held me down. "He just left not long ago. He should have gone to." Before she could finish speaking, I recklessly pulled out the 4-needle from my hand, endured the severe pain, hopped off the bed on one foot, and stumbled towards the door of the ward. "Miss, you can't." The nurse's exclamation was left behind me. I held on to the wall, anxiously looking around the corridor. The elevator indicator light had just jumped, showing it was going down. Was it him? It must be him. I tried my best to hop towards the elevator. The sharp pain in my leg made me sweat profusely, but I couldn't care less. I had to know who he was. That familiar figure, the one who chose me in that critical moment. Finally, just as the elevator doors were about to close, I saw the figure standing in the elevator, tall, upright, wearing a simple black t-shirt. The clear scar on his left arm was startling. "Wait!" I shouted with all my strength. The person in the elevator turned around at the sound. In the instant our eyes met, time seemed to stand still. That face, with its sharp angles and deep eyes, time has etched a bit of vicissitude and determination on his face, but it can't hide that familiar outline. It's just that there's a hideous scar from his left brow bone to his cheekbone, which ruins his original handsomeness, but adds a bit of wild charm. It was him, Noah Steele, my first love, who disappeared for 6 whole years, the man who gave me the most passionate love in my best years, and then left without saying goodbye and completely disappeared from my life when I needed him most. It's been 6 years. I thought I had long buried him in the depths of my memory, along with that unfinished youth, but when he reappeared in front of me, in such an unexpected way, my heart still beat wildly uncontrollably, as if to break free from the shackles of my chest. The elevator door slowly closed, blocking his sight. I collapsed to the ground, letting tears gush out. Was it shock, grievance, anger, or the excitement of reunion? I couldn't tell. The nurse rushed over and helped me back to the ward. I was distraught, my mind filled with Noah's scarred face. Why did he come back? Why was he at the fire scene? Why did he leave so resolutely back then? The next day, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Ava?" A familiar yet strange voice came from the other end of the phone, deepened with a hint of barely perceptible nervousness. My breath caught in my throat, and my fingers tightened slightly around the phone. "It's me," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "How is your injury? Are you all right?" he asked, with concern in his tone. "I won't die," I replied coldly, the resentment that had been building up for 6 years finally finding an outlet. "Noah Steele, you really are a persistent ghost. What? Disappeared for 6 years, and now you reappear as a savior, trying to move me, or move yourself?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. "Ava, I know you hate me. Back then, I was the one who let you down. His voice was filled with exhaustion and apology. There are many things I can't explain, but please believe me, I didn't mean to hurt you, not on purpose, I sneered. A simple /sorry, / a simple / no explanation, / and you think you can erase 6 years of blank space and hurt? Noah, what do you take me for? Give me a chance, Ava. His voice was pleading. Explain it to you in person, okay? Just once. I was silent. Reason told me that I should completely cut ties with him. The pain this man once brought me was no less than Ethan's current betrayal. But emotionally, I couldn't refuse. I needed an answer. An answer that was 6 years late. Time, place. I heard myself say in a dry voice. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. The coffee shop downstairs from the hospital. After hanging up the phone, I leaned against the headboard, my mood complicated. An old love returning, a fiancé betraying me. This melodramatic plot just had to happen to me. The next afternoon, I asked a nurse to find me a wheelchair and arrived at the coffee shop early. Noah was already there, sitting by the window with a cup of coffee untouched in front of him. He was wearing a simple shirt and trousers, his figure upright and tall. Even sitting, you could see the signs of long-term exercise. The scar was even more noticeable in the afternoon sunlight. Seeing me, he immediately stood up, walked over quickly, and tried to take the handles of the wheelchair. I'll do it myself. I avoided his touch and drove my wheelchair to sit opposite him. The atmosphere was a bit stagnant. Ava, thank you for seeing me. He took the lead in breaking the silence, looking at me with complicated eyes. I know, these past 6 years, you must have had a very hard time. Thanks to you, I'm doing great, I said sarcastically. So great that I almost married a man who abandoned me in a fire to save someone else. Noah's face instantly darkened, and he clenched his fists involuntarily. Ethan Hayes? It's him? Or what? Besides you, who else could make me so lucky? He took a deep breath, as if trying to calm his emotions. Ava, I know it's too late to say anything now, but I must tell you the truth of what happened back then. He began to narrate, his voice low and filled with suppressed pain. 6 years ago, we were deeply in love, planning our future. His father was a narcotics police officer, working undercover in a large multinational drug trafficking group for a long time. Just before we were about to get engaged, his father's identity was exposed, and he died heroically. His mother, unable to bear the huge blow and having worried about her husband for many years, suddenly became seriously ill and urgently needed a large sum of money for treatment. To make matters worse, the drug trafficking group began to hunt down his father's family in retaliation. To protect me and his mother, he had to accept the police's arrangement, taking his seriously ill mother into the witness protection program, completely cutting off all ties with the past. I can't tell you, Ava. He looked at me, his eyes full of pain and helplessness. Telling you will only drag you into danger. I can only choose the most decisive way to leave, to make you completely forget me and start a new life. Every word of the last breakup message I sent you was like a knife cutting into my heart. I was stunned. So, that's how it was? It wasn't that he didn't love me anymore, wasn't tired of me, but was trying to protect me? Then what happened? My voice trembled slightly. My mother /s illness required long-term treatment and cost a lot of money. I worked odd jobs while providing clues to the police. Later, to avenge my father and to be able to protect the people I wanted to protect, I joined the army. He unconsciously rubbed the scar on his arm. I joined the special forces. In those years, I carried out many dangerous missions, and I almost died many times. This scar was left during one of those missions. Later, the drug trafficking group was completely destroyed. I also had to change careers due to injuries. He smiled self-deprecatingly. Maybe it was fate. I became a firefighter. Unexpectedly, the first time I went on a call, I met you. His explanation was like a key, opening the long sealed box in my heart. All the resentment and incomprehension seemed to have answers. Looking at the pain and fatigue hidden deep in his eyes, and the scar on his arm that symbolized danger and sacrifice, I felt a mix of emotions. So, you came back? I asked. I came back to deal with some of my father's belongings. I was planning to settle things and then think about whether to look for you. He paused, his eyes becoming intense. But I didn't expect to meet again in this way. Ava, seeing Ethan Hayes treat you like that, He didn't finish his sentence, but I understood what he meant. This meeting didn't resolve all the knots in my heart, but instead made my heart even more confused. The truth of old love, The betrayal of my fiancé. Where should I go? After staying in the hospital for a few more days and my leg injury stabilizing a bit, I decided to be discharged and go home. Of course, not back to that so-called love nest of Ethan and mine, but back to my own apartment. Unexpectedly, as soon as I got to my front door, I saw an uninvited guest, Mrs. Hayes. She stood in front of my door with her arms crossed, her face so gloomy it could drip water. Seeing me in a wheelchair, she showed no concern, but rather a kind of harsh scrutiny. "Oh, you're back? I thought you were planning to stay in the hospital forever," she said sarcastically. "Get out of the way." I couldn't be bothered to waste words with her. "Ava Miller, don't push your luck." She raised her voice. "Ethan only prioritized saving the weaker female classmate in an emergency. Are you really going to make such a big deal out of it? Even refusing to answer his calls? And even going so far as to cancel the wedding? Do you know what people outside are saying about our Hayes family?" I sneered. "Oh? What are people outside saying? That your son abandoned his fiancée at the fire scene and played the hero saving a beauty? Or that he and your future daughter-in-law couldn't wait to make out in the restaurant hallway?" Mrs. Hayes''s face changed. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Whether I am talking nonsense or not, your son knows very well." I took out my phone and opened Chloe's Instagram page. The latest post was posted a few hours ago, a selfie in a high-end ward, with the caption, "Thank you Ethan for your meticulous care. Fortunately, it's just a slight burn and fright. Love you." In the background of the photo, you can also see a section of Ethan's arm. I shoved the phone screen in front of Mrs. Hayes. "Take a look. Your son is busy taking care of his weak female classmate. How can he have time to care about his making a fuss fiancé like me?" Mrs. Hayes looked at the photo, her face turning pale. What she cares most about is face and her son's future. She has always looked down on female students like Chloe who come from ordinary families and want to climb the social ladder. Now that she sees the two of them so close, especially at this critical moment, her anger is clearly ignited. "That vixen," she said through gritted teeth. I took back my phone and pretended to be innocent, saying, "Auntie, actually, I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but Miss Chloe doesn't seem to think so." I opened the call history and found a number labeled Chloe Vance. She even called me yesterday to care about my injury, and accidentally revealed that Ethan has been with her these days, and said, "Ethan actually felt that I was not gentle and considerate enough, and he only felt true love when he was with her." Of course, this call was fabricated, but it was very effective. "What?" Mrs. Hayes completely exploded. "That bitch. She even dared to call and provoke you? She's gone too far. And Ethan, how dare he say that about you?" "Auntie, don't be angry." I pretended to comfort her. "Maybe they are true love? I'll just withdraw." "Quit? On what grounds?" Mrs. Hayes raged. "How much money has the Hayes family spent preparing for the wedding? The invitations have already been sent out. Now you want to cancel it? Where will our family's face be? No way. This isn't over. I'm going to find Ethan and get to the bottom of this. And that Vance girl, I won't let her get away with this." After saying that, she turned around and left in a huff, taking out her phone to dial, muttering curses under her breath. Watching her angry departure, I slowly curled the corners of my mouth into a smile. Very good. The first step, sowing discord, successful. Let your backyard be on fire. See if you still have the energy to bother me. In the following days, I focused on recovering and dealt with the various matters related to canceling the wedding. Ethan called a few times, but I didn't answer. The messages he sent were nothing more than weak explanations and apologies, trying to salvage things. I blocked him immediately. Noah, on the other hand, would send messages every day to ask about my situation, occasionally sending anonymous soups or fruits to my apartment door, but very tactfully not forcing a meeting or trying to enter my life again. This careful distance, on the contrary, relaxed my tense heartstrings a bit. My leg injury gradually improved, and I could barely walk with crutches. Looking at the diamond ring on my finger that once symbolized suitability and the future, I only felt incredibly ironic and an eyesore. Ethan Hayes, this name and everything he gave me, should be completely removed from my life. This ring was bestowed by his mother, Mrs. Hayes, at the engagement. The style is old-fashioned, and the diamond is not top-notch, but she boasted that it was priceless. Now it seems like their mother and son's hypocritical facade, flashy but impractical. I don't want to see it anymore. Ordinary jewelry stores may not have the tools to cut this kind of ring. And I don't want to give Ethan another chance to pester me. I need a clean break. Suddenly, I thought of a place, the fire station. Their professional equipment will definitely be able to handle this annoying ring. And, maybe I can see Noah again. The moment this thought came up, even I was startled. Am I actually starting to look forward to seeing him? Dispelling the chaotic thoughts in my mind, I called a car and went directly to the fire station where Noah was stationed. The atmosphere of the fire station was solemn and respectful, with firefighters in uniform coming and going, full of strength. I explained my purpose at the reception. My finger was injured and swollen, and I couldn't remove the ring, so I hoped to borrow tools to cut it off. The firefighter who received me was a little surprised, but still enthusiastically contacted the relevant personnel. Before long, a familiar, tall figure appeared before me. It was Noah. He was wearing a dark blue firefighter uniform, which made him look even more upright. The scar on his face, set against the uniform, seemed less ferocious and more like a tough guy's badge of honor. Ava? He saw me, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes, followed by understanding and a hint of complex emotion. Come with me. He led me through the training ground to a tool room. It was filled with various professional demolition and rescue equipment. He picked up a small but seemingly extraordinarily sharp hydraulic cutter. Give me your hand. His voice was very calm. I reached out my left hand. When his fingers touched my skin, I still couldn't help but tremble slightly. The pads of his fingers were a little rough, with thin calluses left by years of training, but they were unusually steady and strong. He operated the hydraulic shears carefully, his eyes focused. The tool room was very quiet, with only the slight click of the hydraulic shears operating. I could clearly hear my own accelerating heartbeat. Okay, with a soft click, the ring symbolizing the false marriage contract snapped and fell to the ground. I looked at the broken ring, feeling as though I had a heavy shackle, and let out a long sigh of relief. Thank you. I said, looking up at him. It was no trouble at all. Noah put down the tools, his gaze falling on the broken ring on the ground, then turning to me. You decided? I decided a long time ago. My tone was light. Some people, some things, if they don't belong to you, you should get rid of them as soon as possible, to avoid being an eyesore. He looked at me in silence, his eyes deep, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just nodded. I bent down, picked up the two halves of the ring, walked to the trash can at the door of the tool room, and threw them in without hesitation. The crisp sound of metal colliding with the inside of the trash can seem to mark a complete end to this wrong past. I LLC you out, Noah said. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered. We walked side by side, the sunlight shining on the training ground, a little dazzling. That day, thank you, I finally said what I didn't have time to say in the hospital. In the fire, that's my duty, he replied, his tone calm, but his eyes softened a little. Besides, even if it wasn't my duty, I wouldn't leave you. It was Noah. This sentence was like a pebble thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples in my heart. Walking to the entrance of the fire station, I stopped and said, Noah, about what happened back then. No need to say anything, Ava, he interrupted me. I know you still need time. I won't force you. Whatever decision you make, I will support you. I looked into his open and sincere eyes, and my heart was filled with mixed emotions. This man, after experiencing so many hardships, still retained his inner sincerity and responsibility. Compared to an exquisite egoist like Ethan, he was simply worlds apart. After saying goodbye to Noah, I took a taxi and left. My mood was not as heavy as when I came. What was cut off was not just the ring, but also the last trace of legal and reputational connection between Ethan and me. Next, it's time to proceed to the next step. I had previously booked a high-end bridal shop with Ethan to choose a wedding dress. Although the wedding has been cancelled, the deposit has been paid and the appointment has not been cancelled. I suddenly had an idea. A few days later, I arrived at the bridal shop called Elysian Bridal at the scheduled time. I made a special effort to dress up. Although my legs and feet were not completely nimble, my complexion looked good. A well-tailored dress concealed the injury and only revealed a bit of coldness after recovery. As soon as I walked into the magnificent bridal shop lobby, I heard a familiar giggle coming from the VIP dressing area. Brother Ethan, do you think I look good in this dress? Don't I look like a princess? It's Chloe Vance's voice. I paused in my steps, my eyes turning cold. What a stroke of bad luck. I signaled the clerk who was assisting me to wait a moment, and then I quietly walked to the entrance of the VIP area. Through the decorative openwork screen, I could clearly see the scene inside. Chloe was wearing an extremely luxurious trailing wedding dress, her face filled with unconcealed triumph and happiness, and Ethan, dressed in a smart white tuxedo, was standing in front of her, looking at her with amazement and doting, reaching out to help her arrange her veil. Beautiful, my princess. Ethan's voice was so gentle it could drip water. This wedding dress is simply tailor-made for you. Really? I knew Ethan and I was the most discerning. Chloe tiptoed and pecked Ethan on the cheek affectionately. Ethan laughed and put his arm around her waist. The two flirted as if no one else was around, completely oblivious to me at the door. What a scene of deep affection. At my scheduled time, wearing a wedding dress I might have chosen, my affectionate fiancé was putting on a show of usurping my place. Anger churned in my chest, but I forced myself to calm down. Anger solves nothing, it would only please them. I will make them pay for their actions. I quietly took a few steps back, took out my phone, and dialed a number I knew by heart, Mrs. Hayes. The phone was quickly answered. Hello, Ava? You finally answered the phone. Ethan said you, Mrs. Hayes' anxious voice came through. Auntie, I interrupted her with a tone of grievance and helplessness. I'm at Elysian Bridal now. I originally wanted to cancel the wedding dress reservation. But what? Take your time and tell me. I saw Ethan. He and Miss Chloe are here too. I added a sob at the right time. Miss Chloe is wearing a wedding dress, and Ethan is wearing a tuxedo. They look so happy. Auntie, should I really let go? They seem to really love each other. What? Which bridal shop are they at? Elysian Bridal? Good. You wait. I'll be right there. Those two shameless things. Mrs. Hayes on the other end of the phone instantly became furious, her voice sharp and piercing. After hanging up the phone, I took a deep breath, adjusted my expression, and showed a touch of just the right amount of sadness and forbearance. Then, leaning on my crutches, I slowly walked step by step towards the VIP fitting area. Ethan? I said softly, my voice with a hint of imperceptible tremor. The two people inside turned their heads sharply when they heard the voice. When he saw me, Ethan's face turned pale instantly, and he subconsciously let go of the hand he was holding around Chloe. The smile on Chloe's face froze, and then a hint of panic and provocation flashed across it. Ava, why are you here? Ethan tried to appear calm, his tone a little dry. I'm here to cancel the wedding dress reservation. My eyes swept over the dazzling wedding dress Chloe was wearing. It seems you're already eager to prepare for the next wedding? Ava, let me explain. Ethan stepped forward, trying to get closer to me. Explain? I sneered. Explain why you're here. Explain why she's wearing the wedding dress that should have been mine. Or explain how you abandoned me at the fire scene. Chloe probably felt emboldened by Ethan's support, and she became bolder, hooking her arm around Ethan's and looking at me provocatively. Miss Ava, you can't say it like that. You can't force matters of the heart. Ethan loves me now, so naturally, I should be the one to wear this wedding dress. Oh, really? I looked at her with cold eyes. It's just a wedding dress. If you like it, I'll give it to you. However, I'm afraid someone won't agree. Who wouldn't agree? Chloe's voice trailed off. Ethan Hayes, Chloe Vance, you two get out here. A sharp roar came from the entrance of the bridal shop. Mrs. Hayes rushed in like an angry lioness, followed by several shop assistants trying to stop her, but they couldn't. Mrs. Hayes saw Chloe in the wedding dress and Ethan next to her at a glance. She was trembling with anger, pointing at them and saying, "Good, you two, just great. At the height of the storm of my son's wedding being cancelled, you ran here to try on wedding dresses? Do you even have any shame?" Ethan and Chloe were both startled. "Mom, why are you here?" Ethan hurriedly tried to pull his mother away. "If I didn't come, the Hayes family's reputation would be ruined by you two." Mrs. Hayes shook off his hand and rushed to Chloe, pointing at her nose and scolding. "And you little vixen, who gave you the audacity to wear this wedding dress? Huh? Seducing someone else's fiancé, and so blatantly. Do you really think our Hayes family is easy to bully?" Chloe's face turned pale from the scolding, and she shrank behind Ethan, saying, "Auntie, it's not like that. If it's not like this, then how should it be?" Mrs. Hayes' combat power exploded, and her saliva flew everywhere. "Take off this dress for me. It's an eyesore." As she spoke, she actually reached out to tear the wedding dress off Chloe. "Mom, don't do this." Ethan quickly stopped her, and the scene was immediately chaotic. The other customers and staff in the bridal shop all gathered around to watch the excitement, pointing and talking about it. "Oh my God, isn't that Professor Hayes? Is that his mother next to him? Is that student wearing a wedding dress? What's going on? Is the wife catching the mistress? TSK. So exciting. Even more dramatic than a TV series." Ethan was anxious and angry, his face flushed red. He wanted to control the situation, but his furious mother and terrified Chloe made him feel overwhelmed. I stood to one side, coldly watching this farce unfold, seeing Ethan's disheveled appearance, Chloe's panicked expression, and Mrs. Hayes' shrewish behavior. I felt no joy, only an icy indifference. This is the family I almost married into. This is the man I almost entrusted my life to. The farce lasted for more than 10 minutes, and finally ended with the intervention of the bridal shop manager, Mrs. Hayes, forcibly dragging away the pale-faced Ethan, and ordering Chloe to get out immediately. Chloe ran out of the bridal shop crying. Amidst the pointing fingers of the crowd, I calmly walked up to the manager, completed the cancellation procedure, and got back part of the deposit. Stepping out of the bridal shop, the sunlight outside was just right. I squinted and took out my phone, saving the short video I had secretly recorded during the chaotic scene earlier. This is just the beginning. Ethan Hayes, Chloe Vance, and the Hayes family, you owe me, and I will get it back little by little, with interest. In the days that followed, I nursed my injuries while subtly collecting evidence of Ethan and Chloe's affair. In addition to the intimate video I recorded in the hallway, there were also ambiguous interaction screenshots on social media, and I even obtained some photos of their private dates through some former acquaintances who also disapproved of Chloe's behavior. At the same time, I was preparing for the final revenge. Although the wedding was cancelled, the Hayes family, afraid of losing face, did not immediately cancel the original date and hotel venue, but instead announced a postponement. This is exactly what I wanted. I contacted the hotel, claiming that I needed to retrieve lost items, confirmed the details of the venue layout for the originally scheduled wedding day, and secretly bribed a technician in charge of playing the wedding video. I also did one more thing. I contacted my stepmother, whom I hadn't seen for many years. My mother passed away early, and my father remarried. My stepmother is mean and greedy, and we've always had a bad relationship, but this time, her greed can be used to my advantage. I casually revealed the rich background of the Hayes family and the news that I was jilted, and hinted that going to demand an explanation on the wedding day might get me a substantial compensation for emotional distress. As expected, she immediately expressed that she was obliged to stand up for me. Everything is ready, just waiting for that day to arrive. The originally scheduled wedding date has finally arrived. I didn't go to the hotel. Instead, I sat in my apartment, watching the clock on the wall, every second ticking by. I knew that at this moment, the Hayes family, to save face, should still be gritting their teeth and holding a small banquet at the hotel, inviting some important relatives, friends, and business partners, trying to put a good face on things. Ethan probably thought that I wouldn't show up, and this storm would subside with the passage of time. 2 o'clock in the afternoon was the scheduled time for the wedding ceremony. 2 o'clock in the afternoon was the scheduled time for the wedding ceremony. I took out my phone and sent a message to the technician I had bribed. Start. A few seconds later, the technician replied with an okay gesture. I can imagine that at this moment, in the hotel ballroom, the huge screen that was originally supposed to play sweet memories of the newlyweds is showing a clear video of Ethan and Chloe passionately kissing and behaving indecently in the restaurant hallway. Then, I sent another message to my stepmother, informing her that the best time to demand justice had arrived. After doing all this, I turned off my phone, walked to the window, and watched the traffic flowing on the street below. There was no excitement, no tension, only a sense of peace, as if the dust had settled. What is owed must always be repaid. What should end must always end. Shortly after, my phone started vibrating like crazy. It was Ethan, Mrs. Hayes, and some unknown numbers. I didn't answer any of them and directly turned on airplane mode. I knew that the hotel banquet hall must be in complete chaos at this moment. The screen was playing compromising images of my fiancé and a female student, with unsuspecting relatives, friends, and important business partners sitting below. This was tantamount to a public execution for the Hayes family, who valued their reputation above all else, and my stepmother, at this moment, was probably already following my script. charging into the banquet hall with her greedy and shrewish face, making a scene, accusing the Hayes family of breaking the engagement, and demanding huge compensation. 2 simultaneous good shows are enough to make the Hayes family lose face and be in a terrible fix. I changed into some light clothes, leaned on my crutches, and slowly walked out of the apartment. My leg injury was mostly healed, although I still couldn't walk completely freely. I no longer needed a wheelchair. Downstairs, a black SUV was parked quietly by the side of the road. The window was down, revealing Noah's scarred but still handsome face. He saw me, and a relieved smile appeared on his lips. "Ready?" "Okay." I nodded and opened the car door to get in. The car drove smoothly away from the apartment, leaving the city and my unbearable past far behind. "Is everything taken care of?" Noah asked, not looking at me, concentrating on driving. "Yes, I've done what needs to be done." I leaned back in my seat, watching the fleeting street scenes outside the window. The rest is up to them to bear. "Do you need my help with the things that follow?" "No, I don't." I shook my head. "This is my own war, and I'll finish it myself." He didn't ask any more questions, just drove in silence. The car was quiet, but not awkwardly so. Being with him always gave me a strange sense of security. A few days later, I successively received the spoils of war from this revenge. The hotel video incident and the stepmother's uproar turned the Hayes family into a laughingstock in the upper-class circle. Ethan Hayes couldn't stay in the university either. I anonymously sent the video and other evidence I collected, packaged together, to the university's disciplinary committee and the president's mailbox. Student-teacher relationships, especially those involving power dynamics and moral flaws, are absolute taboos in academia. Soon, the school announced the results. Ethan Hayes was officially dismissed for seriously violating professional ethics. Chloe Vance, also because of this scandal, could not hold her head up in the school, and finally chose to suspend her studies. Her princess dream was completely shattered. The Hayes family's business was also significantly affected by this scandal. The stock price fell, and some originally agreed-upon collaborations were put on hold or cancelled. Mrs. Hayes was probably furious, and it is said that she became seriously ill. Ethan contacted me frantically, and when he couldn't get through on the phone, he waited downstairs at my apartment building. Once I ran into him, he rushed up and grabbed my arm. His eyes were red, haggard, and he begged me to forgive him, saying that he knew he was wrong, begging me to give him another chance, and even willing to break off the relationship with Chloe immediately. I just looked at him coldly. His hand, "Ethan Hayes, from the moment you abandoned me in the fire, there was no possibility between us. Everything you are suffering now is the retribution you deserve. Don't bother me again." As for Noah, after I had dealt with everything, he formally and seriously stood in front of me again. That day, he asked me to meet at a small park we used to frequent. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows, and the air was filled with the scent of grass. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans, looking like the sunny and cheerful boy from 6 years ago, but with a bit more maturity and determination between his brows. "Ava," he looked at me, his eyes gentle and firm, "I know the past has caused you a lot of pain. Ethan Hayes' betrayal has made you experience even more suffering. I won't ask you to forget the past immediately, nor will I force you to accept me. I just want to tell you that I haven't forgotten you for a single day in these 6 years. Now that I have the ability to protect you, I want to pursue you again. Is that okay?" I looked at him, at the undisguised sincerity and love in his eyes, at the scar on his face left to protect others. At this moment, my heart completely melted. Having experienced betrayal and the scorching heat of the flames, I understand even more how precious this regained relationship is. I didn't answer immediately, but instead reached out and gently stroked the scar on his cheek. That hideous mark, at this moment, was full of a different kind of charm in my eyes. "Noah," I looked into his eyes and said seriously, "I have let go of the past. The pain will scab over, and the scars will remind me of my past foolishness, but they will not stop me from moving towards the future. As for you," I paused, a relieved smile rising on the corner of my lips, "if you don't mind that I almost married someone else, if you don't mind that I carry scars and an imperfect past, then, I think we can try." Noah's eyes lit up instantly, as if the entire starry sky had been ignited. He suddenly pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, with a force that almost crushed me into his body. "I don't mind. How could I mind?" His voice was filled with excitement and choked with sobs. "Ava, thank you. Thank you for still being willing to give me a chance. I leaned against his broad and warm chest, listening to his strong heartbeat, and feeling his familiar, reassuring scent. In that moment, all the gloom vanished. Noah and I got back together, not with a dramatic flourish, but with the quiet companionship and understanding of a steady stream. He respected my past, supported my decisions, and gradually healed the wounds in my heart with his actions. We went to see a therapist together to address the PTSD from the fire and betrayal. We traveled together, going to the places we had once promised to visit, making up for lost time. He introduced me to his comrades, tough guys with scars and stories of their own, showing me a world full of strength and sacrifice. I found a new job and joined a promising tech company, starting a new career. Life was back on track, full of sunshine and hope. Occasionally, I would see news about the Hayes family struggling on financial news, or hear snippets of gossip about Ethan and Chloe in the alumni group. It is said that they eventually broke up, blaming each other, and their outcomes were not good. But all of this has nothing to do with me anymore. They are like bugs that have been completely cleared from my life's program, no longer taking up any of my memory. In my world, there is only the man in front of me who clumsily learns to cook for me, who holds me tightly when I wake up from nightmares, and who uses actions to tell me don't be afraid, I'm here. The scars on his face, like the scars on his arms, are no longer hideous marks, but medals of his hardship and victory over darkness, and proof of his efforts to protect me and return to my side. We weren't in a rush to get married, we were just enjoying this hard-won stability and happiness. I knew that this time, I wasn't choosing based on parameters of suitability, but rather following my heart's guidance. The raging fire destroyed the false marriage contract, but it also burned away the fog that had clouded my eyes, allowing me to see who was truly worthy of entrusting my life to. Reborn from the ashes, this is probably it, and I have finally found my true sunshine. That's too naive. After saying that, I turned and left, without looking back. The sun is just right, and the breeze is gentle,